Hey babes, I'm Cynthia.
And I'm Beverly. Grab your favorite drink. Let's sip and chat.
Welcome to Tipsy and Truthful, the podcast.
Period. Hey babes, welcome back to another episode of Tipsy and Truthful. This is a podcast where two best friends sip and chat about life, relationships, parenthood, and everything in between. I'm Beverly, one of your hosts.
And I'm Cynthia.
And yesterday was Father's Day, babe.
It was.
I don't know about your house, but in this house, so many tears were shed.
We're going to get started on that?
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about our week. That was a big part.
Okay. You want to go first? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, as some of you know, if you've been listening, I'm pregnant and my emotions, I'm always an emotional person, I feel like. But now, like, even commercials get me teary-eyed, okay?
Well, I've been pregnant then forever because that's
just your regular.
That's me.
You're like, that's just my regular 24/7.
For sure.
I'm less emotional than Cynthia, for sure. But recently...
Which is funny because that throws people off.
Right? Why?
I don't know. We've talked about this, but I think it's my demeanor and just like the first impression of me, people don't realize, like, don't get like emotional, super sentimental, like off the bat.
You know why?
I have a resting bee face, so I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say it's because when you like your shyness comes off maybe as like, oh, you have a wall, but it's really you being shy.
Yeah.
And me, I'm like super outgoing. I'm like super friendly and blah, blah, blah. So maybe you won't, maybe you think that I would be the mushy one.
Yes. And it's reverse.
Incorrecto.
I'm the mush for sure.
Yes. So my girls are so stinking cute. I can't, it's just, all of it was too much cuteness for me. We had our Father's Day episode. All the fathers that were involved told me how much they loved it. A lot of them shared with me that they shed some tears over their kids' responses.
Because they weren't expecting that.
Yeah, it was like a surprise. They didn't know about that part of it. It was so cute. I listened to that episode. I know it's my own voice in my own podcast, but I listened to it 3 times and I cried all 3 times.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I think for me and Elisa, our friend Elisa who listens to the podcast, she reached out to me and she said, wow, it just put a lot into perspective that us as parents were like, okay, we need to have this house and we need to get you the best shoes and you need to be in this sport. And most of the kids just like appreciated the presence of their fathers. And it puts that into perspective. Like, wow, we're focusing on all these things, which are also important, but we have to make sure that presence is on our top, like, priority.
For sure.
But my girls, like my daughter Aliyah made this handmade book with a beautiful letter that I read to Cynthia and she also cried.
Oh, instant tears. I had to like move the camera away. I was like, give me a second. Because it was very deep.
Yes. She had this idea to make like a little book and she had pictures of them throughout the years. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I probably have some point. So John is not Aliyah and Liana's biological father. He and I met when they were still babies. Like when we met, for the first time we ever met, Liana was
6 months.
Was she 6 months? It was in like May of 2011.
She was a baby.
She was a baby.
She wasn't even 1.
Less than 1 year old, yeah. And Aliyah was 1. And like him and I, we basically spent that summer together when we met, and then we broke up. And when we got back together,
we will have an episode on that.
Our story, you could make a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, we're gonna have a story time on that.
We should
some other time, but definitely we have to revisit that and explain the story.
Because it was messy but beautiful. But anyway, so we've lived together since they were 2 and 1, maybe, or 3 and 1.
I don't know.
Babies.
Don't know the timeline.
It was 2012. End of 2012.
Probably like 3 and 1. 3 and
2. Yeah. Oh no, it was 3 and 1 because Liana turned 2 in that apartment when we moved into. But yeah. So I think for him, he's always gonna have that like, they're my daughters. Like he never says these are my stepdaughters, these are my girlfriend's kids. These are my kids. All of these. These are all my kids. These are my daughters. He will fight.
Yeah,
for tooth and nail for them.
And he's jealous. He's a jealous dad.
Super jealous of his
he
little girls.
Is overprotective dad.
Period.
And he's like a no school Dominican dad.
Yeah.
Like where the girls would be like, Mom, and Beverly's like, Go ask your dad.
Yep, I'm not dealing
I'm not
with
getting
him.
involved. So it's beautiful to see of like him. That was his introduction to fatherhood.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, which is nuts. He was so young,
he was so young.
and he was like, "No, I want all of you."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, her words. I think seeing it in writing, that she realizes and she appreciates, his presence and the way that he parents her. It was a hot mess. And Liana did the same thing. She made this cute little poem on this thing. Like they made it at church, like the toolbox for what
My
a father
dad's toolbox.
needs.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And they got like they went to the store and they got him all his favorite snacks and chips and his favorite chocolate, and they gave it all a little present. I just cannot. It was too cute. And we had a beautiful dinner. It was lovely. That's it.
So I get no opportunities. I know it was Father's Day, but was there anything in the week that you were like, gotta keep working on?
Yes. Yes. How do I say this without saying too much? I had a big realization this week that I've been harboring some heavy emotions towards people close to me, and I don't need to do that. I feel like I was focusing on all the things that other people were doing wrong instead of focusing on me. And we've said it here before, I can't control other people. I can only control my reaction. And yeah, I think I was preaching it, and that part of my life, I was like blinded to it. Like, okay, but you're not doing it in this section, baby girl. And I finally opened my eyes and I was like, okay, this is not you, Beverly. Like, chill.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Thanks, babe.
Because honestly, let me jump into me a little bit. This week has been a really, once again, I don't know what week this is, but it's been a great, I want to say month. At this point, I think it's been a month of me like just focusing on the things that I need to focus on. Really, okay, let me go back. I know that we said a month ago that we started this 60-day hard. The 60-day hard was supposed to be a full, and it's coming to an end on Thursday. So this is why I want to talk about it now. The whole point of the 60-day hard is really 75, but we did 60 days.
I was going to say, you want to explain that a little bit?
It was 75 days of like a full, like basically a life transformation, because it was supposed to be physical, spiritual, mental, every aspect of your life. So you are supposed to eat healthier. You're supposed to exercise a certain amount of time. You're supposed to read more, whatever your choice of reading was. And
no alcohol.
And no alcohol. And you were supposed to meditate. That was also a big part. And I've been doing most of those. I think I lack so much in my mental and spiritual that's where I've really focused my energy. So in other areas, I've been a little slippery, but I gave myself the grace that I knew that it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
But I've been focusing so much on my mental and spiritual that I know that now that I feel like I have a good grasp on it, that I can focus on everything else. And so I say that to say that I've had a lot of amazing turning points in my life in the last 60 days. It's like I don't even recognize myself. It's crazy what 60 days of like real hard work of self can make you feel and the way that you look at life. And so sitting here now, I'm super appreciative of where I'm at in my life. I think that I have a full grasp on my spiritual journey of where I want to go, where I want to be, where my focus is. I feel like I lack that so much that it showed everywhere else. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know what you believe in, but, God for me, these last more than 60 days, because it's been more than 60 days, obviously, but I really want to focus on the 60 days that I've really been intentional about it. How much my life has changed for the better. How my family life has changed for the better, and how I feel. The fact that I haven't had any anxiety is huge. Number one for me.
Yeah.
The fact that I have this much peace in life right now is tremendous for me. And I'm so happy and proud of myself that I've put in the work, and it hasn't been easy, because let me tell you, I've had to tell myself like, man, you've been a problem in a lot of these areas. And I've had to take the responsibility of being like, you know, I have to work on this.
Yeah, you're being accountable.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, asking for forgiveness to people that I've never asked for forgiveness for. And I've been angry at for things that I have just as much fault for.
Right.
So I am in a very good place. And I think Father's Day for me was a celebration of my husband, who not only is he an amazing father, I've never truly taken the time to explicitly express my gratitude for him in our lives as Carol's dad and as my husband. I've never done that. And I wondered why I felt like in times our marriage was falling apart.
Yeah.
You know? And taking the time to be thankful for that has given him, I think, what he needed to hear too. Because I never said that to him. And yesterday on Father's Day, I took it upon myself, you know, after church, you know, the church was very emotional to see all those men stand up there, but church was empty compared to Mother's Day. And that really hit me hard because I realized that we don't celebrate fathers the way they should be celebrated.
Agreed.
We don't celebrate men in general the way that they should be.
That's part of the reason why we decided to have that whole episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that grown men would, you know, wrote to us and said, "You like this episode made me cry," or "Thank you." It really was a realization of like we have work to do as women too, to celebrate and encourage these men to be great fathers, to be great husbands. Because if we're constantly saying all the things that they're not doing and we're not celebrating the things that they are, then with what energy and desire do they want to be better? If they feel, you know, degraded and broken down all the time. So that was my opportunity. You know, I realized that I was lacking in that area. And I know that that's something I have to continue to work on. So I was able to tell that to my husband, and he was very emotional and he cried. And I realized how much he needed to hear that from me directly. So our Father's Day was also great. Cairo told him all the things that he wanted to say. And we went out to a brunch because we wanted to go early. We were hungry. And we had a great time at dinner. So that was it. I just needed to share that.
Beautiful, babe.
Yeah. But in that sparked the conversation that we're going to have today.
Yes.
What is it, babe?
Well, we both have been in these relationships for a long time, right? Yeah. How long have you guys been married?
We're going to be married 10 years almost.
10 years?
9 years now.
Okay.
But it's almost 10.
Okay.
Like married. We've been together for 10, married for 9. Almost.
And me and John living together. Is it 11 years? 12 years?
12 for sure. 2000.
We moved in together October 2012.
Yeah. Yeah. 11.
11 years? It's a long time.
Dang, time flies. It was just yesterday.
We met
we were
12
crazy,
years ago.
Partying, doing crazy stuff. And now here we are, old with the podcast. Crazy. It's crazy how life changes.
I think the beginning of our story is similar to the beginning of your story, where it happened fast.
Oh, so fast.
So there were conversations that I wish we would have had beforehand. That would have made things easier. You know, 11 years down the line, especially when you live with somebody, I feel like you don't truly get to know somebody 100% until you live with them. Right? But if there's conversations that you have prior to getting into a serious relationship, us as adults, maybe back then we were really, really young, and maybe I never could have pictured that me and John were going to be together 11 years later. You know, I was at a place in my life where I was just kind of a hot mess.
And also think about that. At that age, all we're thinking about is the now. It's hard for us to even picture the future. And coming with the background that we have, like that's all we were living for, the present.
Yeah.
And we lacked vision to know what we wanted our life to look like. We had the basics of like, I want this house, I want this car, and I want these babies. But how are we going to get there? We never talked about that.
I feel like we never talked about a lot of things, at least for me.
Me neither. And then that's why relationships are bumpy. Because conversations that should have been had prior to even thinking, like, do we want to continue with this relationship? You know what? What you want is not what I want, and maybe we should cut it. We never had any of the conversations. We live life as like in that moment of like butterflies and lust. And when that goes away, when real life starts, you're just like, we don't understand each other. Yeah, because you don't even know each other.
Right.
You were basing your relationship off, the lust and the emotions that you feel right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you can't base your whole relationship on that.
Yes.
So mistake number one.
We're coming from a place of hindsight.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We have made it work for 10 plus years, both of us in both of our relationships. It has not been
easy.
But it's been a lot of sacrificing, a lot of conversations, a lot of arguments,
a lot of crying.
And I don't know, maybe somebody who's not in a relationship or who's starting a relationship, maybe you can pick something up from this. And
I feel like for me, that's the reason.
Yeah.
I feel like just because we didn't do these things doesn't mean that we can't talk about them.
Yeah.
Because I think that in hindsight, like you said, we realize the value of having those conversations, because they would have saved us a lot of heartache.
Both ways.
Exactly.
Right.
For sure.
For them and for us, it would have been.
But for sure, been way easier. That's what I mean.
So I think we should go back.
Sorry for the beeping. We live in the ghetto. So.
Is that a truck
who knows?
Back outside? Let's go back and forth. Do you want to start with one of the things that you think should be discussed before getting into a serious relationship?
I think the number one, is, I'm going to start real basic. Sometimes we start these relationships and nobody asks nobody out. You just imply that we're together. People don't even ask, like, do you want to be my girlfriend? Or do you want this relationship? It's just implied we've been hanging out together.
Or is this a relationship?
Exactly. Like, are we just go together? It just happens. Like, but there's no conversation. And I think that's problematic. Yeah. Because I feel like that at that point, you don't assess, like, okay, what do we want for this relationship to become? Like, what are our intentions with this relationship? So
another problem with that is it's two completely different minds.
Oh, for sure.
In one person's mind, it could be we're just go together, we're just having a good time, and for the other person, it's like no, this might be my future
or my husband, my wife, or not my wife,
or wife.
Yeah,
it leaves a lot when there's no communication on that. It leaves a lot in the air, like, and it could be completely different things for both people.
Yeah, and then that's why probably like, if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, they do something and you're like, wait, we're in a relationship. And the other person's like, no, we're not. And you're like, what? But there was no conversation.
Right.
So who's wrong really in the in that situation?
No one.
Exactly, because there was no conversation.
Right.
So the person that thought and the person that didn't think, they're both at fault for not having those communications. So for me, I would say, even starting off with, hey, what do you want? Do you want a relationship? Is this something that you want to continue to pursue?
So I think exclusivity is like one of the main beginning steps.
Number one.
If you're seeing somebody multiple times, like I feel like if you've been on like a third date at this point.
I told this to my friends at work. She's been seeing this guy forever. I'm like, have you had the conversation? She's like, no, it's awkward. That's the problem. Why is it awkward? Why are you letting him waste your time or you waste his time if you guys are not at the same page? And if you guys can't even have that conversation? For me, red flag number one. Because if you don't feel comfortable enough to be like, okay, we've seen each other for 2 months already. In my mind, are we together or not?
Yeah.
Like, where do you want this to go? Are we wasting each other's time?
It might not be a waste of time. Like, if you're both on the same page, well, I just want something casual.
Exactly.
The thing is, we have to know, what do we want from here?
It has to be mutual.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think another thing is, I mean, this is unrelated to that, but like, I think knowing the background of other relationships might be important.
Oh, I think so.
Like when the other relationship ended, it might be huge because do you have an ex lingering around still? Like, is this a possibility that are you a rebound?
Am I your rebound?
Right. Are you just figuring things out? I think
that's true. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I think knowing that it doesn't change. I don't think it's a make or break in any which way. What?
It depends
on
what your role in the life of the other person is. Because if you're saying that if I'm a rebound or not.
Well, I don't think you would go out and say, am I a rebound? Like, I don't think that would be the question that would be asked, but it would be well, so when did your last relationship end? What happened?
I know, but like if the person said, no, I'm not looking to get into a relationship and you are, then you could make a choice for yourself and say, you know what? That's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
Because I want something a little bit more serious. But if you don't have those conversations, then.
Right. Like if they tell you my last relationship was 3 weeks ago. Oh.
Okay.
How long was that relationship? 6 years.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
You know?
That means run. No, I'm just joking.
It
You
doesn't-
you never know.
You know, my story.
True. You're right. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, you're right.
Do you have another one?
I would say once you're in a relationship, you guys figure out, okay, this is what we want. We're seeing each other. We're feeling the vibes. You're my girlfriend. I'm your boyfriend. Do you want marriage?
Period.
That's a good one.
I feel like that's the one conversation me and John did have from the get.
Ooh.
Mind you, we're still not married. John, if you're listening to this, that was a jab. Thank you. That was like from the beginning. I was like, I believe in marriage, and you know, if it's not something that some people say I never want to get married, and that's cool. Like Kika says is one of those women that's like, no, buy me a ring and I'll wear it and I'll say that I'm your wife, but I don't need to actually get married. Like Polly, when we interviewed her, remember she had mentioned that she would do the whole ceremony and everything, but maybe not file the paperwork if it didn't make sense.
All right, the next one. I think these are gonna go in line. They're obvious. Do you want children? Do you not want children? How many do you want?
Yeah,
that's huge to me, because a lot of people go into relationships with an idea already of like, okay, I want these many kids, and if the other person doesn't want them, that's not gonna work. Because you can't force one or the other. One shouldn't give up having kids. One shouldn't have to have kids if they don't want to. Being respectful about, you know, each other's preferences.
Right.
And I think that's a huge one. And a lot of people may or may not have conversations, or what happens is that one of the people say, I don't want to have kids. And the other person goes, well, I'll convince them, or they'll change their mind, or this. And it's like, you can't go into that, because if it does happen, great. But like, you can't go in counting on that to happen, because how about if it doesn't? It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the next person. So I feel like that's huge.
Like, me and John never had the conversation. I always liked being a part of a big family. I never really put into words like I want a big family. I like the feeling of it. I think because when he and I met, I was in such a hurt and like distraught place. The conversation never really arose. He always did say that he wanted kids from the get, you know? Even jokingly, he would say, no, because when we have another kid, and can you imagine if I would have just been like, no, like, I'm staying with these two. Like, I'm sorry. And we had already been living together for 2 or 3 years. Because we never had that conversation. I mean, thankfully, after I got out of that place where I was just scared of being left alone with more kids. Because that's the truth. That's really what I was. It wasn't because I didn't want more children. It's because I was afraid
It was stemming from that.
Right. It was stemming from, okay, like I already had a failed relationship when 2 children came out of it. Do I want this again? It wasn't because I don't want more kids. Which is
a legitimate fear.
Of course. Of course. But here we are. Baby number 5.
On the way.
On the way.
Yeah.
And he's talking about number 6. And I'm like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah. That's nuts.
That's where I draw the line.
No, but it's true though. Like, imagine we wouldn't be here.
I know. I'm sure that would have been a deal breaker for him, and I would have understood completely. Let me see. Oh, here's one that I wish we would have talked about in my relationship: love languages.
That's huge.
I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what mine was. I didn't know what the concept was at all. I didn't know what his was. This is my love language. Are you able to? Are you capable of?
Is he willing?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you willing to? Like, no, usually this is not what I've dealt with in my life, but yeah, I'm willing to give you your love in your love language. Because let me tell you, if you're not getting loved in your love language, the other person can be doing everything right, and it still feels lonely. It still feels empty. That has been something that John and I have gone back and forth through a lot. Like, my love language, I've said here, is physical touch. He's not a very affectionate, like physically affectionate person. So I've had to explain to him multiple times, like, but this is how I feel loved, you know? So that's a huge one to talk about before. Even that one's in the dating phase. You can talk about.
Yeah. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the children's situation. I feel like something else that needs to be talked about is, how are you going to raise these children?
Parenting styles.
Parenting styles. If we're two different religions, how are we gonna go about that? if it's going to be a deal breaker. Because I'm going to be 100% honest. For me, it is. So the way that you want to raise your children, what holidays are we going to celebrate? What holidays are we not? Are we going to spank? Are we not going to spank? Like, it's just all these things that when you have children, you go in blindly and you kind of figure it out. Yeah. In hindsight, that part, thankfully it wasn't a huge adjustment, because I think that was kind of already discussed and implied. The way that we were brought up kind of is how we wanted to bring up our kids. Yeah. Or our child at this moment.
John and I never had a conversation about it. I think it was easier for him because he already saw my parenting style, right? And I imagine that if he completely disagreed, it would have been a red flag for him, or he would have been like, yeah, I want kids and this is not going to work for the future.
For sure.
That's another one. Finances.
Woo.
Finances.
I feel like that's such a huge one in any relationship, any relationship that moves on to the next phase of marriage.
Moving in together.
Sorry, I'm drinking some matcha, so. Because finances is such a delicate topic and people don't talk about it enough.
Even in relationships.
That's what I'm saying. In general, it's a huge, like, it's such a sensitive, like, if you have bad spending habits, you don't want somebody to tell you what to do with your money. Yeah. If you have debt, if you have bad credit, all those things need to be discussed in a relationship before you even move on to the next phase. Yeah. Finances is huge. You have to discuss, are we going to have a joint bank account? If we're not going to have a joint bank account, how are we going to pay for are we going to have one bank account for just all the bills? Like, where I put my half and you put your half and all the bills come out of there. Like, how are we going to...
Are we doing 50-50?
Exactly. Are we doing 50-50? You're right. Because, like, how about if that's not the expectation I have for the relationship?
For me, I refuse.
Yes. And I understand that.
Mind you, this was not how I thought in the beginning.
Yeah. This has also evolution as time.
This has evolved.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the evolution of womanhood that we're in now, that we know what we want and the security in that, and that's what we're able to express and put these boundaries of, like, no, that's not what I want. Either you're gonna take care of me or no hay nada.
This is my thing. It's not that you're gonna take care of me.
I understand.
It's we take care of each other, right?
Yeah, of course.
The problem I have with 50-50 in my situation, right? Because 50-50 may work for others. Yeah. In my situation is that I'm already giving 70% of the household, of the children, more than 70%, right? I'm already the primer. I'm the only one going food shopping. I'm the only one worrying about preparing, making, planning meals. I'm the only one taking the kids to doctor's appointments. I'm the only one worrying about homework and projects and buying any supplies. So why would I have all of that, right? And I love my children and I love my partner and I'm taking care of you in this way. Even though there's no money attached to that, if you had to pay somebody for these services, it would be a lot more than half of the rent. So I feel like that's my contribution to this relationship. And that's why I will not be paying half of anything. Like, again, in my case, right? There's other parents where both of them are making meals, where both of them are doing rides to and from school and sports and everything. And maybe in that situation, maybe they can do 60-40, maybe they can do 50-50, maybe whatever. Maybe they just have one bank account and everything goes into there and they... whatever works for everybody else, for me.
And I get that 100%. I feel like that's the conversation that needs to be had. Right.
It's not you need to take care of me.
No. I was just saying that as like whatever.
No. But I'm just saying in my case specifically, the reason that's a deal breaker is because I know what I bring to the house. It's not money wise, but all the care, all the love, all the nurturing that I bring to this house is worth more than 50% of the bills. So I agree. That's enough work for me to have to worry about, okay, on top of all of that, I have to worry about paying half of the rent, half of the LA, half of the everything. And honestly, John is one of those men where he's like, no, I'd rather work my ass off. He will work 8 days a week, not 7 if he has to.
He'll make up another week.
He will make up an extra work day and he'll be like, no, you worry about the kids. I got this. So in our relationship, it works. I know my friend B and her husband, same thing for them. He says he would rather work every single day because he sees how much work she puts into the home, and he said he can't do it. It's too much for him. So finance is huge.
I think it's just the conversation that needs to be
That's
had.
what has to be had.
We want to encourage the conversation.
Right.
Whatever works for your relationship works for your relationship, but you guys need to be on the same page. And let me tell you, when you get married, if you want to get married,
let me add, it could change.
No, of course. And that's okay. But it's having the conversation when you feel that.
Right.
And that the other person receives it. Because I think part of the problem is that we discussed this 10 years ago. That's it. No. Things change. Things evolve.
Of course.
So
I don't know what could happen a couple years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
And if it has to be that the roles have to be switched and I become the provider, I'm not going to be like, well, John, I guess you hurt your foot and you can't work. So kick it to the curb, bruh. I got no use for you now. You know, that's why we're a partnership.
Yeah.
And if roles have to switch temporarily or whatever, we have to make it work. What you said about debt, what you said about what are your goals as far as savings? Do you want to own a home? Some people never want to own a house.
Yeah. And I get that.
Some people never want to own a vehicle. They just want to keep leasing.
Yeah.
Like conversations that need to be had. Like
it could save you a lot of headaches.
It could. Like, again, we didn't have these conversations.
Not at all. We had to like learn and have tough conversations, and they weren't even conversations. They were arguments. I'm gonna be 100% real.
Well, when it comes
really
to money,
bad
it's
arguments, horrible arguments about like you spend too much, and saying that to the next person. They're like, "But I work." I'm like, "And great, but like you're putting us in a delicate situation.
Right.
So at this point, it's affecting me. So we're gonna have this conversation whether you like it or not. And if you have to do like some, I don't know, some controlling until someone learns. Yeah. I'm not saying this is what I did."
She rolled her eyes.
No, but I've had to make some drastic adjustments. But you know what? At the end of the day, it was okay on the other side.
The reason in your case is that your spending habits and his are so opposite.
Oh, so opposite.
You have to balance each other out.
For sure. And so, but we're in the up and up. So
period.
But it took 10 years. That's why we're having this conversation now. Okay.
Another one. Something that I hadn't thought about. I like Googled some of them, and this one came up, and I never thought about this. What are your conflict styles?
Huh?
What?
Huh?
Isn't that great to know beforehand?
Wow.
We talked about in our last episode, we were giving our whole spiel about how much we we still like each other. How one of them in a conflict, one of them takes some time to figure out what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and the other one wants to resolve it immediately. I feel like you don't have to match.
No.
But you do have to know what your partner's conflict style is and work around that. Like
compromise.
You know what? Not compromise.
Well, find the middle ground is what I'm saying. Because if somebody wants to fix it immediately and another person needs some time to like, what is the word? Process whatever the conflict is. This freaking, I'm sorry guys. This lawnmower is driving me nuts.
I don't even hear it.
I hear it. Well.
We were talking about compromise.
And when I say compromise, I don't mean like give up your conflict style. I'm just saying find the middle ground so that we both feel comfortable with whatever that may be. Because if you need a day and I can't wait a day, I'll give you 5 hours. Is that enough? 6 hours for you to process what you got to process?
I'll let you finish this episode and then we get talking
but
about
like we need to figure that out. That's what I mean by compromise. Not like just give up.
The reason I say not compromise is, and this is, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Okay. One of the other podcasts that we love is
Know for Sure.
Megan Ashley in it is I love the way she thinks. Her brain is fascinating to me. And
she's a very intellectual woman.
And she Googled, she looked up the definition of sacrifice and compromise. And she says she'll never be in a relationship where she has to compromise. She will make a sacrifice for her partner. So in that case, like you're saying, like compromising is that you're just not getting what your needs met, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And you're saying you're going to be cool with it, even though your needs are not being met.
You're right.
A sacrifice is, listen, this is me, Beverly. I need to resolve things on the spot. I don't like going to bed mad. I like to fix things there and move on. Just because that's how I was raised. Me and my sisters would fight. 10 minutes later, we'd be playing. Like, that's just how I was raised. That's normal for me.
And that's not normal for me because I need time to process.
You need time to process. John needs time to just be alone.
Yeah.
He says that in the moment, he's going to say something.
Me too. I don't have time to process how angry I am.
Yeah.
And so for me, I need to like process it, calm myself down and be like, all right, listen, this is why you're angry, but you don't need this is how we're gonna fix it. This is how you're gonna feel better. This is what you need to say. I need to like organize all that because my chaotic ADHD mind can't do it at the moment.
And your lengua venenosa.
No, it's true. And when I'm frazzled or upset, I literally could forget everything I'm gonna say and miss some very key points. That's why I need time to process. For me.
And that's fine. Everybody has their own like style. But that's where I'm saying the compromise versus sacrifice.
I get that now.
In my relationship, I will sacrifice the instant need for thing to let him process it. Because honestly, I could live with it. I'm making that sacrifices for our relationship. Making a compromise is being like, my needs are not going to get met.
I get it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
When she explained it that way, I was like, wow, I never want to compromise anything in my life.
You're right.
I will make sacrifices for the people that I love.
For
absolutely.
Sure.
Just like I expect them to make them for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a whole side spiel.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
When she explained that, I was like mind blown. I'm like, girl,
I missed
genius.
That because I didn't see that. But
anywho, do you have another one? Can you think of another one?
We said finances.
I can think of one that was a huge problem in ours, but go ahead.
I think that boundaries with other family members.
Ooh, huge.
And this wasn't my problem personally because my husband is here by himself. And my family, by this time when we were married, we were all over the place, right? Everybody lived different places. But I feel like I see this in a lot of relationships. And we had an episode on mother-in-laws. We had an episode on just like, and it doesn't have to be mother-in-laws. I'm saying in general, what is the role of the other person's family and where are we going to draw the line where we both say this is it. This is going to be detrimental to our relationship and the survival of our relationship. So I feel like that conversation is to be had because if you come from a family where everybody has an opinion about the relationship and you're allowing that and the other person doesn't want that, guess what? Problema.
Right.
And so you need to, that's a conversation that needs to be had. And you usually know that early on. I think in a relationship, you could see like the dynamic of family, mothers, fathers, brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles. You could see the dynamic. And I feel like if something bothers you and you know that you want more in a relationship, you need to bring it up. We need to stop. And this is not one that probably is on the list, but I feel like we need to stop being scared to bring these things up, bringing conflict. Yeah. Because let me tell you, if you don't bring it up now or in the beginning stages,
it bubbles up eventually.
Bubbles up. It's an explosion. Let's be honest. These are things that you grow resentment. Yes. You grow, like you fall out of love. People think it's out of love, but it's not out of love. It's that you're just so angry that a lot of these things, you don't know how to address.
Right.
And you don't have the space you're not comfortable. You've let it pass and now it's like too much. Don't let it get out of hand. Nip it in the bud. Talk about it before you establish your relationship. This is the foundation to a healthy relationship, all these conversations.
I think adding to your thing, two things. Number one, not just boundaries, but like, I think it's good to observe your partner's relationship with their family.
Oh, for sure.
They say that the way a man treats his mother is the way he will treat his wife, right?
True.
Do they have a relationship with their siblings? Are they supportive? Do they communicate? Like, do they have a relationship with their father? Because we've said that a man's relationship with their father usually will affect how they parent. Either a lot of times they'll do the exact opposite. Sometimes they unfortunately end up copying them. We didn't have that luxury of observing you because you guys met online and he was in another country.
Dang, putting on my business. No, I'm kidding.
It's the truth. And me, because when we met, his whole family I didn't meet them until like 6 years after we were together. So I didn't see what their relationship was. I didn't see anything. That would have been a nice conversation to have. But I think even if both of us would have had the conversation, observing it is different. We wouldn't have had that opportunity unless we traveled,
But I'm saying if you do have the opportunity, really take advantage of it because that's huge.
Yeah.
So
This one's the one that was big for us in the beginning for me and John is what are your expectations on social life?
Huh.
So I've seen a couple. I know of a couple where they have 2 children together. They from what I know about them, were happy. They, had goals together and everything. But he loves to be out and adventure. He loves to go out and travel. He loves to go out and socialize. And she's a homebody. And they ended up not being able to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I feel like having somebody with a similar, like, 2 homebodies probably get along way better than one person who's a homebody and one person who always wants to be out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be an issue? If I like to go out and you stay home, are you going to be upset with me? Like, these are things that could be had. Me and John had a big problem with that in the beginning because
I've had a problem with that because I'm a homebody and my husband's not. Now, I feel like as time goes on and he gets older, he appreciates being home more. And he understands the value of, like, just resting.
Right.
But that was a huge problem in our relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
So
we had that problem in the beginning. It was me. I always wanted to be out.
Mm-hmm.
I became a mom. This is the thing. I became a mom so young
that you didn't.
I wasn't even of legal age to go clubbing. I would have to be sneaking into clubs. And I was like a mom already of 2. So that by the time I became a mom, even though, yes, I should be home loving on my babies, I was like, okay, I'm also a 21-year-old who likes to dance and likes to listen to music and likes to have a couple drinks. And having that balance, even after I had my kids, even after I moved in with John. And I came from a toxic relationship where it was like, I'm a one-up you. Like, oh, you're going out and you're staying out until 2. I'm staying out until 3. And I think when I came into the relationship with John with that, I still carry in that old mentality. Mm-hmm. And John, right away, John was like, okay, boundary. That's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
We can go out. You can go out. But like this whole, it was like a constant, for me, it was like I had to prove it. Mm-hmm. It was like I had to prove something. Mm-hmm. Like you have to prove that nobody's tying me down. And like, why are you in a relationship?
I know.
Girl?
Come on, Beverly.
I was a hot mess.
Come on, young Beverly.
I know. We'll go into that. And we have to have a story time episode. So I feel like our listeners need to understand my mindset in that point in time. For sure. Thankfully John understood and stood by me. Mm-hmm. It was rocky as fuck in the beginning though.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's important to know that. And I think now we're both at a place where we love the same thing socially. We love hanging out with our family.
We have the same circle of friends.
The big 6.
Yeah. It's literally the big 6.
The big 6.
Yeah.
And we're all couples and we have so much fun and we can have a couple drinks and a lot of stuff revolves around food and traveling. Like we make plans to travel. Mm-hmm. We're going somewhere this summer. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful. And when we go traveling, I have to give it up to me and my man. Me and John are the life of the party. Always. Even when I'm pregnant. Yes, miss, I'm tired and I'm going to bed.
I never go to bed like that.
Me and John, you and your husband are 2 old people. Shirley and Pat need a C.
No, they're older than us.
They're number 1 old. You guys are close second. Me and John are the ones, mind you, when we went to Cancun, I was 5 months pregnant. And me and John were the last one in bed.
Every night. Yeah. No, but we have fun. And I think that
it works because you guys are like the same. Like,
yeah.
Shirley and Pat are 8 o'clock, 8:30, they're in bed.
We're there.
You guys are like 10:30, pushing it.
But you know what? That's a good one to bring up. I didn't even think about
the social life.
But like, no, and not only the social life, but I guess the social life, revolving yourself around other like-minded couples.
Period.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, okay, disclaimer, this might ruffle some feathers. I just feel like when one or the other
that's
is
a
around.
T-shirt, babe. This might ruffle some feathers.
And put like the little feathers. I feel like, man, no matter who you are, right? If you have friends that are mostly single, that's gonna be a problema.
Eventually.
Because you can have single friends, but if you only have single friends that don't understand a relationship and a serious relationship at that, and that respect your relationship, it's gonna be a problem in your relationship. Like the other person's gonna feel like, why they always want you out? Why do they don't respect like our relationship, our time together, or whatever the conversation might be.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like that's a huge conversation to have. Like, okay, we need to find friends that are couples too, so we can do couple things. But also, when I want to hang out with my friends, I could go once or twice, pero tampoco tige, take advantage of that. Porque uno le da mano y que tiene brazo. And you have to be conscious of that, because I think that could avoid a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So
for sure. How about what plans do you have for the future, for 5 years, 10 years down the road?
I think that's huge.
When do you want to retire? Where do you want to retire?
Yeah.
These are all huge conversations. These are great pillow talk conversations.
How about I have one that probably is not talked about at all. And it just came to me. I feel like in this journey that we're in this new walk in life that we've been on for a couple years now, I think that if you guys decide that you guys want to be in a relationship and you want to go to the next step and you guys have trauma, therapy.
So is your thing, what are your views on therapy?
No, going into therapy together. I think that for me...
Well, that wouldn't be a conversation together. The conversation would be, would you do therapy? If
I feel like exactly. I think that once the relationship gets more serious, I think that saying, hey, maybe we should work some of these traumas that may affect our relationship in the future. Or if we can't find common ground, but we know we want to make it work, have a third party that can help us work through it.
Yes.
That can help us sacrifice the things that we want to do in order to make sure that both of our needs are met, that we're respecting each other, and that we have common ground. Because I feel like, man, we come with a lot of baggage. Everybody does in a relationship.
Yes.
And sometimes when that's not dealt with, you can bring that into the relationship.
Always.
And it's detrimental to maybe your relationship working out or not working out. So I say, just like and I only thought about this because I know in some churches when couples are going to get married,
they make them do therapy.
They don't make them. They advise that couples that are going to be married or want to get married go through like counseling together to work out all these big questions that we're talking about.
I know churches where it's a requirement. Like, okay, you have to do X amount of sessions with
I feel like some churches,
I
don't think that all churches.
No.
I think the church we grew up in, definitely.
Yeah.
The church we grew up in, make sure that people go through like these sessions with the pastors where you're discussing all these hard conversations with a third party.
Yeah.
And making sure that there's common ground, that this relationship is going to work. Because sometimes you're just so worried about getting married, the big wedding, and you miss all those. The church that we grew up in offers or kind of makes people go through therapy because those are detrimental. They just I was just saying that it's not in your peripheral view. Sometimes when you get into a relationship and you're going to get married and all these things, you miss these big conversations because you're so focused on, I'm so happy. And
it's the honeymoon stage.
Exactly.
It makes you blinded to a lot of things.
Exactly. And the real life is not as lovely if these conversations are not had. It could be very ugly. And that's just me being honest. Yeah. Not trying to party poop on anybody. But like, honestly. So I think therapy is something a lot of people don't think about. And maybe it is worth the conversation.
Do you think politics have to be addressed?
Maybe. What are your stance on some of these issues? These bigger issues that might affect our family life? I think so. Like that depends.
We never talked about politics.
Me neither. But I think some people could benefit from it.
I feel like when we see things in the news, though, we definitely address them. And like, hey, what do you think? This law that just came out that bans X, Y, and Z. Like, what do you think about that? And these are definitely conversations that we have.
For sure. For other people, it might be huge.
Yeah, I mean,
their stance on political views.
If your stance on politics is super huge and it's a big role in your life, definitely discuss that before.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the biggest one for me is like the mental health stuff where like, are you open to therapy?
I think that's huge. I honestly think it's huge because I mean, I've had to go through therapy.
I've chosen to go through therapy.
I've had to because I was a mess. And so I feel like that if I would have done that for myself first, before I even got in a relationship, it would have afforded me a lot less heartache. in my life in general, like in any relationship, because I don't think I was ever ready, mentally prepared, emotionally prepared to be in any relationship. If I'm gonna be 100% honest,
Yeah.
I think that I went in it with the wrong intentions, with not a full understanding of what my role in the relationship was, in any relationship, and then that obviously in turn came into my marriage, and we've had to work through mountains of things, and that's not easy to do.
Period.
So, yeah, babe.
I think that's it.
I think I'm going to say a nugget.
What's the nugget?
All right. My nugget of this whole conversation is that, number one, you need to lose that fear of speaking up for yourself. No matter what stage you're in. If you're just on Bumble, minding your own business, trying to go on a couple dates, even then, you need to know what you want as a person so that you can communicate that to the next person.
Yeah.
Because people can't mind read.
No.
People can't read your mind. And if you're not clear on what you want, how is the next person supposed to know?
Right.
So I think my nugget of the day is be clear with the intentions that you have for yourself and then communicate them. And don't be afraid to stick to them. If something is not going to work out with someone, guess what? The next person will understand. That means you're saving yourself from heartache, a headache, from like having to overcommit. You don't need that.
Yeah.
You can avoid all that if you are true to yourself and that you can communicate these things to the next person. So I think that's my nugget.
That's a good nugget.
Yeah.
You know, you reminded me of something. This is something that happened last night or after dinner. I just have to add this in because I thought it was so cute. I was in the bathroom after we had dinner. We took some pictures in like a selfie mirror that was near the bathrooms. And I went in and there was this lady, maybe mid-40s, with a beautiful green dress on. And she turns around. She goes, Mija, can you help me? I'm like, yeah. She goes, do my teachers look bad? And I said, oh my God, no, you look beautiful. She's like, are you sure? She was like adjusting her dress that had like a belt in the middle. And I said, here. And I adjusted her belt. And I said, here, accentuate the thinnest part of your waist. And I said, you have a beautiful body. You look great. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I haven't been on a date in 14 years. And I don't know how to act. And I don't know, my inner Cynthia came out and I said, you be you. Act like you. Because if this person doesn't like who you are when you're being yourself, then good riddance. I said, no, the words I said was, then fuck him. And I said, you look beautiful. I hope you have fun. And then I tinkled. But
and then I tickled. That's so, that must be nerve-wracking though.
I couldn't even imagine.
14 years?
Yeah. It sounds like she has like daughters. Because when the girls came in and they were like making fun of me like they always do, she said, oh, they sound like my daughters when they were their age. So I already put a whole story in my head that she was like a single mom and like is now starting dating.
Man, that's beautiful though. I hope she had a great time.
Me too. She really did look so beautiful.
Was the dress green?
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite color.
How do you know?
You just said green.
Oh, I did?
I think so. Unless I was just guessing.
Maybe
that would
I
be
did
scary.
say green dress.
I think you did say a green dress.
Oh, okay.
But that's my favorite color. So that's
Okay.
probably your innocent that came out. And watch Yvonne say that's not your favorite color. Yes, it is, Yvonne. Man.
She has green glasses on right now as proof. Okay?
Yes, I love green. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed our episode.
Yes. And guys, let us know if you want this story time of me and John's story.
Yeah, I think it should be a story time. It would be fun.
I'm like, nobody cares, but maybe
You never know.
Maybe somebody will find it interesting. It really could be a movie.
It really could, like a Lifetime, like low budget, but definitely a Lifetime movie.
Listen, my life is never low budget. Suelta, bájate de ahí.
A Hallmark movie.
Oh, God.
Well, with that, we want to say thank you for not getting tipsy with us. Not for sure.
Yeah, but still keeping it truthful.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on Instagram at Tipsy and Truthful Podcast.
And TikTok at Tipsy and Truthful. See you next week.
Love you, babes.